The fire had always burned at the center of the world. They called it the Flameheart, a seething core of radiant energy buried deep beneath the Andes, pulsing with life older than humanity itself. Civilizations once worshipped it as divine. Scientists later confirmed it as a limitless power source, self-generating and conscious in ways it could not fully understand. In time, it became more than sacred. It became the beating heart of Earth's unity. Borders faded. Wars ended. Humanity had, for the first time, something to protect together. Commander Aria Talon stood on the outer cliff of Citadel Theta, the last human stronghold overlooking the caldera that housed the Flameheart. Her suit clung tight to her body, a second skin of graphene and memory alloys, glowing faintly red in the heat. Her copper hair whipped in the furnace wind. But she didn't blink. She had been forged in war, born to soldiers, raised in bunkers, hardened in battlefields the world wanted to forget. Peace hadn't suited her, but she respected it. And she knew better than most how fragile it truly was. The sky cracked open that morning. A ship, larger than anything Earth's orbit had ever seen, pierced through the clouds like a blade of silence. It cast a shadow wide enough to smother an entire province. No warning, no transmissions, just a humming of displaced air and the low-frequency scream of gravity being pushed aside. People fell to their knees. Some prayed. Others ran. Aria stood. She was already in motion before command called her. In the war room, generals screamed across frequencies, demanding protocols, authorizations, answers. But Earth had no plan for this. The Flameheart had been guarded for decades, yet none of their advanced offenses had predicted this approach. "They're not responding," said Colonel Ing, his voice tight with dread. "All frequencies are blocked. They've shut down our satellites. They're already inside our grid." Aria clenched her jaw. What about the Flameheart vault? Still sealed. For now. Then we hold. The ship didn't attack at first. It hovered, a behemoth of blackened steel and humming energy, watching. Hours passed. Then a single beam of pale green light shot from its underbelly, slicing into the caldera like a surgical tool. The mountain shook. The Flameheart roared. Aria was thrown to the ground as the vault ruptured. A wave of heat swept over the citadel, cracking concrete and igniting the very air. She scrambled up in time to see it, the core exposed, spiraling upward in defiance. Fire twisted into sentient form, and then the ship took it. In a blink of light, the Flameheart was pulled from Earth's belly, consumed into the ship's hull like a soul being harvested. What followed was silence, then screams. Without the Flameheart's stabilizing presence, the tectonic plates groaned like dying titans. Volcanic rifts split the crust open, spewing lava into cities. Tsunamis rose without warning. The atmosphere thickened with smoke. Within days, Earth was dying, choking on its own wounded breath. Aria awoke in a medical bay buried beneath 1,000 tons of rock. The citadel had collapsed. Her left arm was shattered, ribs broken, lungs burned. She didn't care. The moment she could stand, she demanded a status report. There was none. Most of the high command was gone. Communications were scattered. Satellites remained dark. And the ship, the thing that had taken their world's heart, hovered still, unchallenged, over the smoldering wreckage. She found survivors. Scattered units of soldiers, engineers, and frightened civilians. Some blamed the aliens. Others blamed Earth's arrogance for not being prepared. Aria blamed herself. She had been the guardian of the vault, and she had failed. But grief was a luxury she couldn't afford. On the fourth night, she gathered what remained of her unit around the ruins of the citadel. The fires lit their faces in red and shadow. She didn't give a speech. She just looked them in the eye and said, "We're not done." A technician handed her a datapad recovered from the wreckage, fragmented readings from a Flameheart at the moment of extraction. There was something strange. The energy spiked, as if resisting, and a frequency, not random, a pattern, a message. She listened to it a dozen times before she believed what she was hearing. A voice, layered in static and pain, whispering only one word: help. The Flameheart had cried out. It wasn't just energy. It was alive. That changed everything. Revenge was no longer enough. It wasn't just about taking back power or punishing the thieves. It was about rescuing something sacred, something stolen and suffering. And Aria Talon, broken but breathing, knew then that she would become the Reckoning. They had taken what was sacred to humanity. Now, humanity would take something back. Ash blanketed the ruined plains where cities once stood, a soft gray snowfall made of memory and loss. Aria moved through remains like a ghost, the air around her suit rippling with faint heat as it filtered toxins and particulates. Above her, the ship loomed still, unmoving and silent, as if watching the slow death it had caused. Days had passed since the Flameheart was taken. Days of chaos, collapse, and quiet horror. The world systems had not survived. Governments fractured. Satellites remained dead. Supply lines vanished. But in the shadows, something stirred, something that refused to die quietly. She found Lieutenant Ray Voss in what was left of Fortaleza's subterranean metro. Voss had been one of her best tacticians during the defense drills that no one believed would ever matter. Now, dirt-smeared and exhausted, he stood among a dozen survivors, including medics and technicians, faces gaunt and eyes hollow. "You're alive," he said, disbelief outweighing relief. "Barely," she replied, "but I'm not here to hide." He gave a bitter laugh. "There's nowhere left to hide. We're going to fight." Voss stared, the firelight reflecting in his bloodshot eyes. "With what?" That question echoed in every corner of the world. Earth's defenses were designed to repel wars between humans. They were never meant to challenge an enemy who could silence orbit, rewrite physics, and rip the soul from the planet. But Aria had something left most in, a mind sharpened by loss and an oath born in fire. They began small, scouting for supplies, salvaging tech from husks of ruined defense centers. The old world was dead, but beneath its bones, secrets waited. Through whispered channels and encoded transmissions, word spread. Commander Aria Talon was alive and building something. Survivors started to converge. Engineers from the Pacific Arcology, hackers from a northern combine, soldiers who had buried their units and walked across burning plains. They brought desperation. Aria gave them purpose. In the deserts of what used to be Chile, they uncovered a black site so deep it had survived the tectonic upheavals. Inside was a graveyard of forbidden technology, scrapped AIs, plasma scaffolds, forgotten weaponry. Among them was a prototype battlesuit, unlike anything on the surface. Streamlined, reactive, and bonded to its user's neural network. Designed for interface with adaptive combat AI. It had been deemed too dangerous. Aria stepped into it like stepping into destiny. It changed her. Her movements became effortless. Her awareness expanded. She felt pulses in the earth and electromagnetic flickers in the sky. The suit didn't just respond. It listened, learned. It mirrored her fury. Around her, others were upgraded with scavenged gear, but none bonded like hers. The rebellion called her the Flameheart. Small missions turned into strikes. Communications towers were reactivated. Enemy drones, biomechanical things built in the image of nothing human, fell to ambushes and EMP traps. The invaders had underestimated Earth's capacity for rage. They expected submission, not insurgency. Every data fragment the team recovered about the Flameheart's energy confirmed Aria's theory. It hadn't been inert. It had been screaming. One night, as cold winds swept through the shattered husks of steel trees that once powered megacities, Aria stood atop the wreckage of a downed scout ship. Voss joined her, watching distant fires flicker along the horizon. "They're starting to organize," he said. "We've had 3 coordinated counterattacks in the last week." "They're testing our limits," Aria muttered. "We need more than defiance. We need strategy." "I have one." He looked at her. "We don't just keep them busy down here," she said. "We go up there." The silence that followed was heavy. No one had boarded the alien ship. Its defenses were unknown. Its interior a mystery. But Aria had been watching it, tracking faint electromagnetic shifts, energy bursts, patterns. The ship was vast, larger than a continent, but it moved with the precision of a creature, and creatures could bleed. "We get inside," she said. "We find the Flameheart. We bring it back or destroy them trying. You'll need a team," I'm building one. Over the next week, her focus shifted to recruitment. She found Yelani Thorne, an ex-rogue AI programmer who had once been imprisoned for infiltrating orbital defense systems. Aria broke her out herself. Yelani agreed to join after one conversation, and a glance at the readings from a Flameheart's final cry. She described it not as energy, but as a mind in pain. She found Kale, a former planetary ranger from Europa, whose colony had fallen to another race long before the current invasion. He carried scars like tattoos and spoke little, but his eyes saw patterns others missed. And she found Vara, a child barely 16, whose body had been rebuilt with synthetic limbs after her city drowned in magma. Vara had hacked a drone and sent its own weapons against its masters. When Aria met her, the girl simply said, "They took my brother. I'm going to take everything." Each addition made the plan more real. They trained in silence, under red skies and stars smothered in ash. They became more than soldiers. They became a mirror to the enemy. Cold, adaptive, relentless. On the eve of their departure to an old orbital launch station, hidden in the mountains, Aria gathered her team. Her voice was low, not the thunder of a general, but the calm certainty of a storm before it breaks. "They touched what was sacred," she said. "They thought we'd break. They were wrong. We're going to remind them that what's sacred to us, what's ours, cannot be stolen without consequence." No one clapped. No one cheered. They simply turned, loaded their gear, and walked into the dark. And above them, the ship began to move. The launch platform groaned beneath the weight of centuries-old rust and new defiance. Snow swirled in from the cracked dome above, mixing with the exhausted jump jets being reawakened for the first time in decades. Aria stood at the helm of the Valkyrie, a retrofitted orbital interceptor once mothballed under layers of bureaucratic caution. Now, stripped of restraint and loaded with tech too dangerous to ever have been approved, it would be their way in. Inside the hull, her team made their final checks in silence. Yelani's fingers danced over glowing glyphs of alien code, hijacked from drone wreckage and repurposed for the mission. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, but her voice remained steady. "We'll have about 6 minutes before the mothership's automated defense grid recognizes us as hostile. After that, we're either through or ash." 6 minutes is generous. Kale said from the weapons console. "They'll smell us before we hit their skin." Var didn't speak. She sat near the loading ramp, sharpening a blade she'd built from salvaged alien alloy. The glow from its edge shimmered against her synthetic eyes. She wasn't nervous. She was hungry. Aria watched them, heart beating with a rhythm that felt synchronized with the suit she wore. It whispered telemetry and combat readiness through her spine. But deeper still, she felt something else, a pull, subtle and constant, like gravity that wasn't tied to any planet. The Flameheart was calling. The launch shattered the stillness. The Valkyrie punched through the decaying atmosphere in a scream of white heat. Earth fell away behind them, scarred and burning. Ahead, the enemy ship grew, its underbelly an endless maze of black metal and shifting light. It wasn't just a vessel. It was a world unto itself. Aria's voice cut through the tension. "Vara, get us blind. Kale, ready to breach pod." The girl's fingers moved over cloaking system, stolen tech stitched together with genius and luck. For a moment, the Valkyrie vanished from every frequency the enemy ship scanned. They slipped between awareness and silence, ghosts navigating the veins of a machine god. Then the ship reacted, not with weapons, but with motion. It tilted slightly, as if turning an unseen eye toward them. Lights along its surface flared, and the air in the cockpit thickened with static. "They know we're here," Yelani said, too calm. Aria didn't respond. The breach pod launched, a spear of heat and metal slamming into the outer hull of the mothership. The impact was bone-rattling, but the grip held. A hiss of pressurization, a cut through the surface, and then they were inside. The interior defied logic. The corridor curved both ways, metal breathing faintly beneath their boots. Walls shimmered with translucent skin, veins of violet light pulsing through them like lifeblood. This was no machine built with screws and steel. This was grown. Yelani's scanner blipped erratically. "This place is alive." Kale took point, his rifle trained ahead. "Then let's hope it bleeds." The team moved swiftly, each step deeper into the ship, drawing them closer to the energy signature Aria had felt for days. But it wasn't just a Flameheart. It was more layered signals, emotions not their own, brushing the edges of their thoughts. They reached a chamber unlike the rest. Open, vast. In its center hung a crystalline structure, suspended by strands of golden light. Inside it, the Flameheart twisted like a captive sun, compressed and screaming silently in color and motion. Aria stepped forward, breath caught in her throat. The energy pulsed in recognition. It knew her, but before she could reach it, the chamber changed. The strands of light snapped taut, and from the shadows stepped a figure, tall, robed in sinewy armor that flickered with starlight. It wasn't entirely humanoid, but its face bore the uncanny suggestion of one. "You do not understand what you seek," it said, voice resonant like thunder rolling through deep water. Aria raised her weapon. "You took what wasn't yours." "It was not yours to keep," the being replied. "It is not a power. It is a reckoning." And it was waking. Behind Aria, Kale shifted. "You're saying the Flameheart was a threat?" The figure stepped closer. "Your world touched it without knowing. It began to change. Not just your machines. Your minds. It was reaching out, reshaping. You worshipped it, but it did not belong." Yolani whispered, "So you caged it." "We contained it, not for conquest, for containment." Aria lowered her rifle slightly, uncertainty creeping in. The Flameheart pulsed again, anguished. It wasn't neutral. It was in pain. "What is it?" she asked, voice softer. The being paused. "It is a living force, a seed of something far older than stars. It cannot be owned. It can only awaken. And when it does, everything you know will end or become something unrecognizable." Silence filled the chamber. Aria looked at her team. Yolani stared at the Flameheart with awe. Kale's jaw was tight, unmoved. Vara stepped forward, voice steel. "Then why does it hurt?" The figure hesitated. "Because it knows you," it said finally. "It remembers your world. It called to you, and now it suffers for it." Aria made her choice. She turned to her team. "We take it back, but not to keep it, to set it free." The figure made no move to stop them. Instead, it turned and vanished into the ship's folds, as though it had only been there to offer warning. Aria stepped to the crystalline prison. The suit interfaced with the structure. Systems flared, alarms screamed, but she held steady. Her mind flooded with sensation, memories not her own, galaxies folding inward, fire that wept and sang and dreamed. Then she spoke aloud to the entity inside. "We're here. We're listening." And the Flameheart, at last, answered. The Flameheart's voice was not a sound, but a sensation, like memory being stitched into her bones. Aria staggered as her mind opened wide, the walls between self and other dissolving. She saw through time, not as a linear thread, but as a river branching infinitely. The Flameheart was not just energy. It was a keeper of evolution, a living code bearing the universe's earliest breaths, waiting for species to find it and choose, control or communion. Her body shivered as it shared visions. Civilizations that had tried to harness it. Some were consumed by ambition, reshaped into nightmares. Others had released it, ascended, vanished, or become something else. Earth was the first to feel it, to stir its awareness with reverence and need. That was why it called to them. That was why it screamed when it was stolen. The chamber dimmed as the Flameheart dimmed, withdrawing into itself. Aria reached out, breath catching. "Don't retreat. We're here now. You're not alone." A flicker, then a slow, pulsing light. Yolani stepped beside her, eyes reflecting the glow. "It wants to trust us, but it doesn't know how." Kale's weapon lowered. He watched them silently, then turned toward the entry. "We don't have time." The ship stirring. Movement on every level. Vara's voice crackled over the comm for signatures inbound. Hostile. Heavy armor. The Flameheart pulsed once, brighter, clearer, and the chamber restructured itself. Walls slid back, forming crystalline ribs. The energy laced through the air, coiling into threads that wove into Aria's suit, strengthening it. The armor responded like it had been waiting. She was no longer simply wearing it. She was it. The alien ship convulsed as if aware of the bond forming. Alarms sang in a pitch too high for the human ear. Lights bled down corridors. From the darkness came shapes, tall, multi-limbed, clad in skin-like plating. Sentinels. Kale met them first, hurling plasma rounds down the narrowing hall. The rest of the team moved with synchronized precision, Vara weaving between attacks, her blade cleaving through armor with brutal elegance, Yolani dropping pulse bombs that turned sentinels into molten wreckage. But they were outnumbered. The ship was birthing more. "We won't hold them all," Kale barked. "We need a way out. Now." Aria didn't flinch. "I'm not leaving it." She turned to the Flameheart. "Can you help us escape?" It didn't answer with words. Instead, it expanded. The chamber fractured with sudden force, revealing a deep interior passage lined with veins of energy. At its end, a portal shimmered, a fold in space bending reality around itself. "Evac point," Yolani breathed. "That'll take us out of the ship." "Where does it go?" Kale asked. "Anywhere." "Everywhere." Vara glanced at Aria. "Then we choose where." Aria nodded. "We bring it back to Earth. But we don't imprison it again. We let it live among us. Guide us. And if it changes us?" Kale's voice was quiet, but hard. "It already has." The Flameheart began to move, floating from its crystalline cradle like a newborn sun. It drifted toward the portal, slow and deliberate. Aria and her team shielded its path, fending off the wave of sentinels pouring into the corridor. Every second stretched, thick with heat and desperation. One by one, the team crossed into fold. Yolani vanished in a blink of light. Kale followed, dragging a wounded Vara. Aria was last. She turned once, meeting the gaze of pursuing figure she had seen before. The robed being who had warned her. He stood still, expression unreadable. "You risk everything," he said. "No," Aria answered. "I choose." She stepped into the light. The world tore apart and reassembled. They emerged above Earth, high orbit, near the old Skyhook station long presumed destroyed. Below, the planet writhed in fractured light, storms blooming across oceans, continents shifting. The Flameheart hovered above the atmosphere, its glow stabilizing, sending out ripples of calming force. And Earth responded. Volcanic eruptions slowed. Magnetic storms eased. The oceans quieted. Yolani fell to her knees. It's healing." "No," Aria said softly. "It's choosing us back." Signals from the ground crackled to life. The resistance, scattered and broken, heard her voice over the net again. She spoke not as a soldier, but as a witness to something vast and sacred. They thought they could take what was sacred and cage it. But sacred things are not owned. They are shared. And now we share in something older than war, older than fear. The reckoning has begun. But it is not the end. Behind her, the Flameheart pulsed, gentle and warm. It's a beginning,